Thank you for joining us. I'm Melinda Hereford, practice management coach and consultant from California.
And I'm Shelley Renee, also a practice management coach from here in New York. We're incredibly excited to introduce my favorite person in the world here, Erin Cochran. She's the house whisperer from Redesign. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you both for having me. I'm excited to be here.
The house whisperer. That's a pretty cool thing, Shell, isn't it? I love that, Erin. A house whisperer. I wanna know about that already.
I know.
Yeah.
Tell us.
Well, basically, my job is to help you I like to say, help you give birth to a home that nurtures and supports the way you really want to live. Mm-hmm. So basically, whether that's through redesigning what you already have or renovation, rethinking the spaces that you live in so that your house really is a foundational element in your life, helping you to create the life you want. It supports you with beauty, comfort, all these things. Because if your house doesn't do that, it's a real drain every day.
Well, guess what, Erin? My house isn't doing that right now. And I never noticed until I was quarantined. Now that I'm quarantined, I'm not comfortable on the couches because I never sat in them. I'm feeling closed in. I'm feeling all these crazy feelings. And that's why I started to think of you. What do we do from here once we start noticing things?
Well, I would say, Shelley, you're in really good company. I think a lot of people are feeling that way. The walls are closing in right now. We've been home a lot with, a lot of togetherness with our families. That can be a little hard at times. But I would say the first step, if the first step is really for us to talk about one space at a time. So I know all of us are kind of disgusted with our houses in one way or another, or I know that you both work with dentists and their practices. There might be a space in their office that they want to focus on. And it's sort of, as you begin this process, you want to think about what space you want to focus on, because that helps you to really hone your focus and think about specific solutions for that. And if you have a space either in mind for your house or your dental practice or whatever, it's good to start thinking about what in that space kind of gets under your skin on a day-to-day basis. So we're all busy working, living, doing things all the time. And it's easy for there to be these little things that just aren't working for us, that aren't nurturing us and aren't supporting us, that we tolerate all day long. There's all kinds of things. Like I know exactly a good example.
I know. I get you. I walk through my house and it feels kind of scratchy to me, Erin. Like I'll look at oh, there's that. Oh, there's that. And then when I go through and just clear the decks, right? It's like, ooh, my husband, Steve and I cleaned the other day and we just took a bunch of stuff off the countertops because like Shelley and I have been talking about this. It's like, okay, we got to change this because we're going crazy. And it was amazing just clearing the decks. So that's what you're talking about, like the noise that's in our environment that we just put up with on a day-to-day basis because we're busy, we're working.
It becomes really white noise, Melinda. And when we stopped, the really important thing is stopping to focus on it, so that we really honor the fact that it's not working and that it's bothering us. And we all have a lot of stuff in our homes, some people more than others, but in America, we all have more stuff than we need for the most part.
Oh, sure.
And it's easy. If we have a lot of stuff out, that's another thing that can be sort of contributing to our feeling, like you're saying, with stuff on the kitchen counters, that's always competing for our attention. It can be things like, always having to go and plug something in across the room in your office, or a writer that I used to work with who always had to walk around and plug in her computer every time she had to print something. So, those things that you do every day as you're working or just existing, they're annoying.
They are.
And it really takes away from our ability to just be happy and enjoy where we are. So if you go through your 5 senses and think about, what you're looking at, what you're hearing. So there could be sounds that always annoy you in the space. Like I noticed recently in my kitchen that my Keurig makes a low hum all the time. Of course, I've been spending more time in there recently. So, okay, I'm going to unplug this because I don't want this sound all the time. So just noticing those things and really taking steps to mitigate them. And,
so that's a process, right? That's the beginning process, is to 5 sense your spot that you're picking. And what do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? What does it sound like?
Right.
5 sense it. So that.
What are you tolerating that you don't need to tolerate? What can you fix? And a lot of times it's really easy fixes. Like I unplugged the Keurig because it was annoying me. And it's being aware of those things so you can change them and you're making the space better.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful.
So we have time to do that right now. Then what do we do?
Okay. So the next thing is really focusing on building in elements of comfort. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I love to talk about is the concept of hygge, Hygge. It's a Danish word that doesn't translate directly to English, but it's really the idea of coziness or comfort. And so in Denmark, they have some very cold, dark months every year. And yet they, as a society, are rated among the happiest people in the world.
Wow.
And a lot of them attribute this idea of hygge to that because they build into their lives these elements, things like texture, so soft, cozy textures, beautiful lighting, so candlelight, nice lighting like lamps other than overhead light, elements from nature like flowers, live plants, things like that. And just if you think of all those things and making sure you're bringing in those elements so that you create these zones of comfort in your house. So
beautiful. That's beautiful. So I'm noticing the 2 lamps behind you. So this is part of the concept, right? Is that you're using that light. It already kind of creates a hominess feeling. It makes you look like you're at home in your home. Of course, you're in your home, but it's cool, right? It's comfy looking.
It builds a sense of intimacy and that coziness that we really want to have in our home environments. And really, I would argue that even in our professional environments, especially when we're caring for clients or patients, it builds trust to have these elements that connect with people, that they're being cared for, that we're aware of other people's needs. And it's really subliminal, actually. But if you've ever visited somebody's house where you instantly feel at home, you feel welcome, you feel like a lot of times these are the elements that they have incorporated, these elements of texture, softness, lighting that just feel welcoming. And it really gets us off on the right foot when we're relating to other people and helping them feel cared for and building that sense of trust.
Beautiful.
Oh, that's the key word right there. When we're working with our doctors in these practices, I can't state enough to the practice owners, the dentists, the patients, the environment they have created for the patients has so much to say about them as a person. And people are judging their dentistry by how they feel when they're in the reception area. Does it generate trust? Is it reflective of them? And honestly, I wish they would pay attention to the environment, because I actually believe more dentistry would be happening because patients would be drawn, comforted, like you said.
Yes.
That's powerful.
It's very powerful. Years ago, when I started my business, one of my first big clients was a group of radiology practices here in Philadelphia. And I helped them to rethink the way their waiting rooms were arranged and what they had in them, so that, if you're waiting for a mammogram, chances are you're already feeling stressed, even if it's a routine procedure.
Absolutely.
And, we put in elements of artwork that depicted waterscapes or nature. We had live plants. We did things that really brought the feeling of home, but in an appropriate way. So it's, again, just very welcoming and soothing. So, so important. And in our homes, we can do that. It's easier still to do it in our homes, but we don't often think to do it if it's not the way our brain works. But to set up like a spot right now when we're spending so much time at home, you have a chair where you like to sit, and you bring in a lamp next to it and a little table and maybe a throw, so that you have a blanket there, maybe a candle that you can light, so that, it's easy for you to sit and have a place that feels comforting. You have a lamp that makes it easier to read. You have a table to set down your glass of wine as you're relaxing. And you just really set it up so that you are being cared for.
I'm laughing, Erin, because I cleared the decks. I was feeling claustrophobic, and I got rid of end tables. I got rid of lamps. I got rid of little things. Then I started to feel, it's not warm. So
Right.
it's a balance.
It is a balance.
That I defer to you on to get that right, where I feel comforted and not claustrophobic. So.
Yeah, it is. You do have to find that balance. What did you say, Shelley?
What else can they do once they eliminate the noise, bring in the comfort, warmth? Is there anything else that they can do?
Well, I think the important third step is to sort of think about what sort of environment you want to create. What do you want to create in your life? What do you want to create in your dental practice? What things do you want to have going forward, and how can your environment support that? So I like to tell the story about how years ago I took my daughter to a local theater production, and we got there to the theater before the show started, thankfully, so you don't have to do that embarrassing thing where you find your seat as the show's going on. But the whole stage was softly lit with the sets and the props. And as we sat there, you look at everything, and you're already learning things about the characters that you haven't even met yet. Right. And it helps those people to tell the story they're about to tell. So if you think about your environment that you have pictured that you want to work on, what story do you want to tell?
That's beautiful.
I think it's a really powerful question to ask ourselves. What do I want to create? And how can my environment support that? And is the environment that I'm in right now telling the story I want to tell? Yeah. And so often we're stuck with an identity that we may have created a while ago that we're not really all that jazzed about anymore, especially if you have things in your home, maybe from your parents or grandparents, or things that can be absolutely beautiful and absolutely worth keeping. But how is that maybe keeping you stuck, or do you need to incorporate it in a new way? And really think about the story you want to tell. And if somebody were to walk into your house, what are they going to learn about you? And is it what you would want them to know?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I love these tips. So how do we put this all together? I know people are going to want to reach out to you. I want you to come live with me for a while.
Well, I would say, it's easy for me to do virtual consultations now through Zoom or FaceTime, and give people quick ideas and generate thoughts on next steps. But if you take these 3 steps first and sort of get your head around where you want to go, that's the most important first thing to do. But certainly, I'm sorry, Shelley, go ahead.
No, that's great. That's a great first step. And Erin, you have a gift for our listeners. You want to tell them about the gift, because then we can make sure that they get your contact information.
Absolutely.
So that we can, start that virtual piece, right? So what's the gift that you'd like to give our listeners?
So it's a free copy of my Project Home Workbook, which is 4 weeks to a nurturing, lovely home. So basically that workbook comes to you, and you can go through all the steps basically that we've talked about today. It touches on decluttering. It touches on in discovering what you find to be beautiful and how to incorporate that into your house. And if you work through this workbook over the course of a month, or I recommend a month, then you can really chip away at this and get a better idea of what you want to create.
Oh, thank you. I
Mm-hmm.
know I can't wait to go through that myself.
Me
So,
too.
It's very helpful.
Shelley, I can see why they call Erin the house whisperer.
correct.
Right? It's just you create automatic comfort and trust just being with you, Erin. So you
There's
know,
no question you feel that drawn. And so no wonder she can create those spaces that draw people in. How incredible for our doctors, our
beautiful.
dentists, to create this space. Unbelievable.
Well, and I want people to know that this is not, because if your brain doesn't work this way, which for so many of my clients, that's why they hire me, because it's very overwhelming. Like spatial things and design is very overwhelming to a lot of people. And this does not have to be hard. It's really easy. It can be simply moving things around, finding a few new elements, changing the color on the walls if you want to. It can be really, really simple, straightforward steps that make a huge difference in how you feel in that space and how your clients and your family feel in the spaces.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Beautiful. Thank you, Erin, for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much.
Great.